Now, President Putin has met President Xi at the BRICS summit, calling the Chinese leader a dear friend. Vladimir Putin has been welcoming delegations from more than 30 countries as Russia hosts a summit of emerging economies. But on China, Vladimir Putin said the two countries should work together to create what he called a just world order. Mr. Xi told Putin the world is undergoing profound changes unseen in a century and the international situation is chaotic and intertwined. Well, President Putin has already met India's Prime Minister, Narendra Modi. But let's examine in more detail what the BRICS group is all about. It stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa, and is often referred to as a counterweight to the Western-led world. It has expanded to include Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran and the United Arab Emirates. Saudi Arabia has also been invited to join. The BRICS nations, as a group, account for 45% of the global population, and their economic weight is significant. Their economies are worth more than $28.5 trillion. And that corresponds to 28% of the global economy, which has led its members to claim that BRICS represents the global majority. Well, Chris Weafer is a CEO of Media Advisory, a strategic consultancy firm which focuses on trends in Eurasia. He says that by simply hosting the large BRICS summit, it is a win for the Kremlin.
It's very much a statement saying, look, I'm still standing. We're still here. We're still relevant. So, Putin certainly sees this summit primarily as something he can show to a domestic audience, to, the Russian elites, the Russian people, that, that Russia has not been isolated. It has not been, pushed aside in the global community. It's still relevant. And secondly, of course, on a more practical sense, he wants to use this summit to progress this the objective of creating an alternative global trade system beyond the use of the dollar and SWIFT, so that it can be more sanctions-proofed, as it were. So, yeah.
And is that idea likely to get traction, do you think, or not?
Yeah, no, it is, because it is something that has been discussed by other countries. China certainly has been very keen on it. There is no kind of decision as to exactly what this would look like. It is not a BRICS currency, so you're not looking at a new dollar, a new euro, or anything like that. It is a system where cross-border trade between two BRICS countries can be settled bilaterally without using the global system. So China has already testing its version of this called the M-Bridge. They have, for example, made several transactions with the United Arab Emirates, another BRICS country. Russia has got some proposals of enhancing this using digital currencies. Yeah. But in general, yes, all the member countries say they favor creating this kind of alternative settlement system in order to boost trade between the countries.
A final twin thought then. How much do you think it represents a threat to the G20? And also, what else, apart from what you've mentioned about currency, does Moscow want in practical terms from a summit like this? And what do you think those other BRIC nations want from it?
Yes, no, I think the G20's days are numbered. If BRICS does develop and it adds more members, then I don't see the relevance of G20 in the future. The way Moscow and Beijing, of course, have been presenting the BRICS to members and to potential member countries is that it can properly represent their interests in the world. In other words, against the dominance of the G7 as they see it. And they dismiss the G20 because they see it has already been gazumped by the G7. So very much the narrative of this can represent the interests of everybody else. And that's what they're looking to do it from. But Russia and China, they've been very careful to avoid any kind of overtly political narrative. It's not been critical of the US, that would make a lot of countries very uncomfortable. It's not talking about shunning the dollar or in any way kind of shunning trade with the West. Again, that would make countries like India and others very uncomfortable. Moscow wants to increase the membership of this group in order to create a much bigger base of countries that are not part of the G7, and for which then it can have more credibility in the world and expand its trade without having to look over its shoulder at the dollar or sanctions.